Okay, picture this. You're about to embark on a vital road trip, maybe uh, the most important journey of your professional life. You've got the best car, a full tank, fantastic co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the catch. You have absolutely no idea where you're going, or why you're even going there, or how you'll know if you've arrived. You're basically driving blindfolded, right?
Absolutely. And that's not just a recipe for disaster. It's a guaranteed way to waste incredible amounts of time, energy, resources.
Yeah.
You could end up miles off course and, maybe worse, believe you've succeeded when you're actually nowhere near the real destination.
Exactly. And believe it or not, that's the precise challenge so many teams face in organizations today.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have clear, measurable, desired outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
They're working hard, sure, but without that North Star or maybe a reliable compass to guide them. So today, we're taking a deep dive into that crucial North Star, desired outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've waded through quite a bit of material articles on organizational effectiveness, practical guides, even stuff on AI interaction. And our mission today is, well, to clearly define what desired outcomes are, really unpack why they're not just helpful, but absolutely crucial for success.
Crucial, yeah.
And show you how to craft them so they're actually actionable, meaningful. We'll also connect them to the bigger picture, organizational goals, and even show how they can supercharge your interactions with AI.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. At its core, a desired outcome. It's more than just a vague goal, isn't it?
Well, much more.
It's a powerful, concise statement that answers two fundamental questions. What are we trying to achieve? And, maybe even more critically, why does it matter?
And here's the bit that really makes it work, the game changer. It must include an objective way to measure progress and success.
Objective, okay.
Think of it like painting a really vivid picture, an unmistakable one of what done right actually looks like. Without that objective measure, it's just, I don't know, a wish, a hope. It's not a tangible target.
That distinction, wish versus target, that's so important. Our sources really stress a critical first step, even before you start writing one down, asking, what problem are we trying to solve? Why is nailing down the problem so foundational to defining the WHY?
It's foundational because, well, without a clear problem, your why just gets fuzzy.
Right.
Like, take an example. Improve delivery speed significantly to keep customers happy. Sounds good, positive even.
Yes, sounds reasonable.
But what does significantly actually mean? Is that 10% faster? 50? Who decides? And how on earth do you measure happy customers? My idea of happy could be totally different from yours.
Right, completely open to interpretation. One person's significant is another's meh, barely noticed. So how do we get past that ambiguity? How do we make it concrete?
Precisely. So now contrast that vague statement with a really clear, measurable desired outcome. Something like this. Reduce average time to market from 6 months to 6 weeks. Okay, that's the what. To respond quickly to customer needs and stay competitive. And that's the why.
Okay. That specific phrasing just cuts through all the noise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It instantly gives teams a shared understanding, they know what they're doing, and the tangible reason it matters. That must foster incredible alignment, a sense of purpose in their work.
It absolutely does. And a key point from the sources is keeping them objective and concise. Ideally, we're talking 1 or 2 sentences, max.
1 or 2 sentences, okay.
If you find yourself writing paragraphs, you're probably overcomplicating it. Or worse, you're starting to drift into the how. And that, as we'll get into, is a really significant pitfall.
Okay, the how pitfall. We'll come back to that. So, say you've drafted your desired outcome. How do you know if it's actually any good, if it'll work? The sources mention some crucial validation questions you need to ask, right?
Yeah, vital questions. You have to be rigorous. Ask yourself, can this actually be measured objectively? Are the success criteria crystal clear?
No wiggle room.
Exactly. Could different people interpret this differently? That's a big red flag. And crucially, will we know early on if we're starting to drift off track?
Okay, those questions force you to really bake in the measurability, the clarity right from the start.
They do. For instance, think about a common but kind of vague goal like create a more engaged workforce. It sounds noble. Everyone wants that.
Sure. But how do you measure more engaged? Is it like more high fives in the hallway, fewer complaints? It's fuzzy?
Exactly. So subjective. Instead, a really effective desired outcome might be increase employee engagement scores from 65% to 85% within 12 months. There's your measurable what sortie to reduce turnover by 40%, and there's your impactful why.
Okay, wow. That example really crystallizes it.
Yeah.
Can you break down just how that phrasing removes the ambiguity and what's the tangible business benefit tied to that WY?
Happy to. So the what is totally concrete, right? A 20-point percentage increase in engagement scores. Measurable. And the WHY is just as explicit. A 40% reduction in turnover. This directly links that sort of abstract idea of engagement to a measurable positive business outcome. Because reducing turnover saves a ton of money and hassle.
Huge cost, yeah.
So it's measurable, it's clear, and it's tied directly to a real business benefit. No ambiguity there.
What's interesting, though, is that while numbers are often great for metrics, the sources also say not every desired outcome needs hard numerical targets.
That's a really good point. Measurement doesn't always have to be about hitting a specific number. It can be qualitative or based on trends. Remember our earlier example, happy customers. Too vague.
Yeah, definitely too vague. How would you reframe that without needing, say, a specific satisfaction score target?
Well, you could express it as achieving an upward trend in customer satisfaction scores. So in this case, the pattern itself, that consistent upward movement, becomes the measurable indicator of success.
The trend. Okay.
It works without locking teams into maybe rigid numerical targets that might not always be appropriate or even achievable, depending on the context. Qualitative improvements, patterns, trends, they can be just as meaningful, just as measurable in their own way, as long as you can observe them objectively.
Okay. This all sounds incredibly powerful. Like, it seems like a no-brainer for efficiency, for getting things done right. But naturally, with great power, comes some common traps to avoid. The sources warn about a couple of crucial cautions here.
Indeed, they do. And probably the biggest pitfall, something the sources call stepping into the hate how W space, is incredibly common. It's just so tempting for leaders, for anyone setting the goal, to specify their preferred solution or the exact process, the tools to use right there in the desired outcome itself.
I can almost hear some listeners thinking, but isn't it just easier to tell people how to do it? Especially if I know the best way. How do the sources push back on that?
Well, the sources are pretty direct. They basically call dictating the how a form of professional disrespect.
Disrespect? What?
Think about it. You're essentially telling highly skilled people, look, I don't actually trust your expertise to figure out the best path. Beyond just stifling creativity and innovation, which it definitely does, it erodes trust. It erodes ownership within the team. You end up with a kind of just tell me what to do mindset, not real engagement or problem solving. And this really clashes with agile principles, especially in product and service management, where empowering the delivery team to discover the best way to achieve the outcome is absolutely fundamental. That's how you get adaptability and real innovation.
So you're setting the destination, the what and why, but you're not dictating the exact route every single turn. You're certainly not telling them how to steer the car. Makes sense.
Exactly. And another major caution is the danger of unintended consequences from metrics that are too narrow.
How so?
Well, if a desired outcome focuses only on, say, a short-term number without the bigger picture context, without clear direction, it can actually lead to strategic harm. It can even incentivize the wrong behavior.
You mean like someone hitting the target, but missing the point? Focusing so narrowly on one number, they damage something else, maybe the company's reputation, in the process.
A perfect example the sources use is a CEO whose bonus is tied only to a desired outcome, like increase revenue by X%. Sounds good, right? More revenue is good.
On the surface, yeah.
But if that's the only thing they're measured on, what's the easiest way to hit that target? They might just jack up prices. So they hit the number, get their bonus, but they've potentially upset customers, damaged the brand's long-term reputation, and maybe done nothing for sustainable growth.
Ouch. Short-term gain, long-term pain. That's a real danger.
It really is. It's not just about CEO bonuses either. It highlights how a poorly constructed desired outcome can create a toxic incentive. You end up rewarding behaviors that look good on one narrow metric, but are actually bad for the overall health of the organization long term.
So the sources are clearly pushing for a balanced approach. You need to avoid over-constraining the how, but also avoid creating these narrow, potentially harmful incentives. It's about sustainable, holistic success.
Precisely. And what's really fascinating and very relevant right now is how these principles, these ideas about desired outcomes, they aren't just for human teams anymore. They're proving to be just as critical, maybe even more so, when we start talking to, well, artificial intelligence.
The AI connection. That's where it gets really modern and super applicable for probably everyone listening.
Yeah.
Tell me, how does a desired outcome fit into an AI prompt?
It's actually a perfect illustration of everything we've been discussing. Imagine you just give an AI a vague prompt, something like, help me write a blog post on workplace culture. Okay, it's a request, but...
Yeah, but it's way too broad. It would probably just spit out something really generic.
Right.
Like maybe cliches about ping pong tables or team lunches. It wouldn't know my specific angle, my audience. You'd end up doing tons of rework, or worse, get something totally irrelevant, lots of wasted effort, that width you want to avoid.
Exactly. It would likely miss the mark completely. Now, compare that to a prompt that includes detailed context plus a clear desired outcome. The sources give a great example. First, you provide context like, okay, AI, I'm writing for professional HR managers. They care about actionable insights, real-world examples, not theory. Need 3 actionable steps. Examples from successful companies, professional tone, about 800 words.
Okay, that context alone is a huge improvement for getting something useful from an AI. But then you add the desired outcome on top of that.
Right. And the desired outcome here might be create a blog post focusing on strategies to build a more inclusive workplace culture. That's the what. So that companies following the blog post advice can see an upward trend in their top talent acquisition and retention. And there's the why, the desired impact.
Okay. That level of detail just refines the output dramatically. It's like giving the AI the same North Star clarity we expect from human teams. It immediately knows the exact kind of culture content you want, inclusive strategies, and the specific impact you're aiming for with that content.
Precisely. And the result you get back from the AI is going to be far more focused, much more aligned with what you actually need. The desired outcome gives it that clear picture, the goal, the audience, even that qualitative metric for success, the upward trend in talent acquisition and retention. This makes evaluating the AI's output straightforward. Is it aligned? Does it help achieve that outcome? It cuts down dramatically on that rework, that whip.
So desired outcomes and AI prompts, they act like an anchor, just like they do for human teams,
Yeah.
keeping everything relevant, actionable, measurable.
That's absolutely it. The sources note that providing a clear DO really helps fine-tune the conversation with the AI, keeps it from going off on tangents. And what's really cool is that sometimes the AI models will even reference the desired outcome back to you during the interaction, sort of showing how the content they're generating aligns with the goal you set. It mirrors exactly how effective DOs work in organizations, keeping everyone, human or AI, aligned and on the right track.
So what does this all mean for us, for you listening, as we navigate our own work, our projects, our tasks? This idea of clear, measurable, desired outcomes, it seems to go beyond just setting goals. The sources highlight a couple of broader impacts.
Yeah.
They act as early warning systems, and they actually help us build critical skills.
That's right. Think about that early warning system idea. When you have that really concrete picture of what success looks like, any deviation, any lack of progress, it becomes obvious much sooner.
Okay.
This lets teams, again, whether human teams or you interacting with an AI, adjust course before huge amounts of time or resources are wasted. It's a massive boost for efficiency and just, well, the likelihood of actually succeeding.
And probably saves a lot of frustration, too. Less rework down the line. It's like having a dashboard with clear signals so you know immediately if you need to tweak things, instead of finding out you're way off course much later when it's harder to fix.
Exactly. And the final key takeaway here is that getting good at offering effective desired outcomes, it's a skill. It takes practice. It's not typically something you just intuitively know how to do perfectly the first time. It requires discipline, maybe even a bit of a mindset shift.
So how do you build that skill? Is there a secret? Or maybe just a consistent process to follow?
It really comes back to that 2-step process we talked about earlier. Always start by rigorously identifying the problem you're trying to solve. Really dig into that. That forms the rock-solid foundation for your WHY.
Okay, start with the problem.
Then, and only then, define the what that directly addresses that problem and aligns with the WHY, and make absolutely sure it includes that clarity and, crucially, that measurable aspect of success we discussed. Doing that consistently, that repetition, that's what builds the skill, builds the mastery. It becomes more natural, more intuitive over time.
So wrapping up again, whether you're trying to guide a huge organizational team, or maybe a smaller product initiative, or even just trying to get the best possible result from an AI tool, defining your desired outcomes clearly seems absolutely essential. For clarity, for alignment, for actually measuring success, they really are that North Star, aren't they? Defining the what and the why, and then empowering the how for everyone involved.
It leads us to maybe a final provocative thought for you, our listener. How often do you start a new task, maybe a big project, or even just crafting a complex email without really stopping to define your desired outcome first? What opportunities for clarity, for efficiency, for ultimate success might you be missing by not nailing down your what and your why right at the very beginning?
That's a great question to ponder. And we genuinely love to hear your insights and examples on this, what's worked for you, or maybe what's fallen short when you've tried to define these kinds of statements. Have you found particular ways, maybe little tricks that make it easier to write them? Or has your company used desired outcomes effectively to bridge that gap, that sometimes tricky gap between business folks and the delivery teams? Let us know.
Yeah, share your experiences. And if you found this deep dive helpful, definitely check out the links in the description. We've put the source video and some other resources there for you to explore these ideas even further.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.